Today on Switch to Linux, we will talk about Linux distributions which are ditching GitHub, and we will talk about why. Thanks for checking out this video by Switch to Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel. If you've not already done so, leave us a like and a comment down below. Of course, we are talking here about GitHub. GitHub is the original code repository allowing collaboration, making sure that nobody's writing code over everybody else, and a way to actually fork and manage and maintain projects. And it was going really, really well. And then Microsoft says, hey, we can own the coding system if we buy it. And they did, much to the chagrins of many other people. GitLabs showed up. I think they were around before that, but a lot of people moved over to GitLab because they just wanted nothing to do with Microsoft, and that's expected. But what happens when a project has been on GitHub for a long, long time? Well, sometimes you just look at it and go, oh, I'm going to have to deal with the nonsense. And sometimes you plan your exit strategy and you do it. And we're going to look at a Linux distribution which has planned its exit strategy and is beginning to walk down that road. Why is it? Is it just because it's Microsoft, and Microsoft is basically now known as micro slop and is synonymous with AI slop being thrown in every single corner? Well, yes, it is for that general reason. And it kind of starts here with discussion of a little court case here. And this was a case that was filed not too long after Copilot started making its way into GitHub, where one particular coder who is also a lawyer noticed a lot of GitHub code which looked a whole lot like code that he wrote. And so he filed claims under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, had 22 different claims. 22 different claims. And the judge had actually thrown out 20 of those, allowing 2 to proceed through. But effectively, the ones he was allowed to go through is misusing his software license, and I forget what the other one is, which is kind of funny to me how you could say they didn't use the software license without saying they used the code, but okay, whatever that happens to be with. But what he looks at is, hey, this system is pushing out code that looks a whole lot like the type of code that I write generally. And this raises a question, does GitHub actually train itself on code? The official answer actually happens to say no. So this person asked, does GitHub Copilot use any code from individual users to train GitHub's model or any successor models? And so he's actually documenting here a lot of articles. He's seeing some policies here that you can check a button there to allow it to be used. He's looking at documentation. He's looking at other articles which seem to conflict. And this is what we find in a lot of places. There's a lot of miscommunication. Things do not seem to align themselves right, and it asks what in the world the situation is. So there's a full answer here who basically says for GitHub Copilot Pro users, your code is not used. Now, here's what's significant is the original question asked about Copilot Business or Enterprise. They specifically say that those two types of models are not used to train the AI. But he also asks, he says, it's clear to business and enterprise users do not have it. It's not as clear when it comes to pro and free users. So he mentions here he's a pro user, and for pro users, the answer is no. Well, what does this mean? Process of elimination, pre-K games, which one doesn't belong? Well, that kind of means that free users might have your code might be used to train the AI. That's kind of a possibility, but he does mention here, the maintainer here mentions here, your code is not used to train the models for the pro users. And what about old articles? They reference that different things, improvements versus training, private code, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that they mentioned the free ones. So all the topics effectively about the obfuscation of the policy of the Copilot free that you have by default. So basically it looks as though the free may train your data. The Pro, the Enterprise, and what was the other one? The Pro, the Enterprise, and the Business are not actually used to train it. That is what the allegations are, but some people do have some questions about this. So now that happened a little bit ago. The court case was in 2024, September of 2025. From the Register, let us get rid of it. Angry GitHub users say forced Copilot features are driving them crazy. And this is Microsoft's playbook. Find a product that's excellent, cram AI nonsense slop into every single corner that nobody asked for, and then people get irritated. And then Microsoft sits there and thinks that it's not going to impact them in any way, shape, or form because they're so big and dominant. And unfortunately, Microsoft might be right until we actually, as users, start doing different things. You have to make the conscious decision to start doing different things. You can't be like, I hate AI. Oh, AI's here. Then you hem and you haw and you blah, blah, blah. And then the challenge you have is that you are now allowing this slop creep into the whole world because you're not taking the solid stances. Understand this, if Copilot gets forced and everybody like low level with only a few projects clones their stuff out, moves it to GitLab or any other alternative, and all drops their stuff, if they had 50% user drop immediately with the AI, they might be like, maybe we shouldn't do this. But that doesn't happen. We look for convenience. We are slow to move, slow to act. And I understand slow to move. I am very slow to move on many things. But there's also some things that I simply will not compromise on, and boom, it's over and it's done. So that really is that point. We have to be so frustrated with the AI being forced in every corner, particularly if we don't want it, to actually make a stand and move somewhere else. It's not like you have GitHub and no other options. There are other good revision options out there that you can use. But among what people are saying here, among the software developers who use Microsoft's GitHub, the most popular community discussion in the last 12 months has been a request for a way to block Copilot, the company's AI service, from generating issues and pull requests in code repositories. Second most popular, where popularity is measured in upvotes, is a bug report that seeks to fix the inability of users to disable Copilot code reviews. Both of these questions, the first opened in May, the second opened a month ago, remained unanswered despite an abundance of comments critical of generative AI in Copilot. So they basically have several instances which are overwhelmingly being called out in the community to say, hey, we need to do something. And they're like, we're not saying nothing on that. Because, that would be counter to our business of cramming AI into every single corner. We got to have those sweet data centers, and we got to justify our cause, and we have to justify to our board how many people are actually using our AI. It's utter nonsense, right? So the author of the first developer, McClure, published a similar request in Microsoft's VS Code repository in January, objecting to the appearance of a Copilot icon in VS Code after he had uninstalled the Copilot extension. Microsoft and GitHub, not to mention rivals in Google, have gone all out in the that sizable or at least vocal portion of their customers simply don't want it. And with billions of capital expenditures to recoup, they are making it difficult to avoid. So they threw a whole boatload of money. They said, this is the latest thing. And then the whole user base says, but I don't want it. And now they have to justify these positions. So it makes no sense for them to disable features, which their board is watching carefully and going, I don't know, what's going on? Well, Microsoft, we have 75 bajillion Copilot users. The board's like, whoa. But if Microsoft comes back and says 75 bajillion Copilot users ask us to disable the nonsense, the board's going to say, stop it. But Microsoft is in too deep, because if they say stop it, somebody's getting fired for using all of that money, and nobody wants to get fired. And that's really what the fundamental problem is. So during the Microsoft's July 30 earnings call, CEO Salty Nutella said GitHub Copilot continued to exhibit strong momentum and has reached 20 million users. He said nothing about the, everyone else on the most popular code revision platform not wanting anything to do with it. Okay. GitHub Copilot enterprise customers increased 75% quarter over quarter as companies tailor Copilot to their own code bases. Is that true? Undoubtedly, some companies are using it, but how many of those are people that this stuff is hoisted upon them and they don't know how to stop it? Okay. It's like today I was sorting articles for something and it's like the Firefox had upgraded to that grouped tabbing crap, utter nonsense. It's like dragging the tabs around. Oh, your tab group. I do not want a tab group. I found in one instance it will copy a tab from one side to the other. I don't want that either. I had to go back in, look it up again. How do you turn off this crappy tab crap nonsense that I don't want, I don't need, and but if Mozilla's collecting data, and they probably are, it's like, oh, look at people are using the tabs now. Well, no kidding, you hoisted it upon me, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Okay, and so. That's kind of what's going on here. So I've been for a while filing issues with GitHub community feedback area when Copilot intrudes on my GitHub usage. He told the register in an email, I deeply resent on top of Copilot seemingly training itself on my GitHub posted code in violation of my licenses. GitHub wants me to look at effectively ads for this product that I will never touch. If something's bothering me, I don't see reason to stay quiet about it. I think part of how we get pushed into things we collectively don't want is because we stay quiet. And that's the exact point I was making. Okay. We have to push back. We have to seek to remove it. And if they don't listen, we have to remove ourselves from the system and go somewhere else. And that really is the principle that we need to look at. And so there's some discussion. Of course, he did mention here training on his information, and it's not clear if they're training. I don't know if he has a pro account or a free account. I don't know if Microsoft's actually telling the truth about not training with their code or not. We don't know, and the court case will not allow it to move to discussion to discovery, so we won't know. But there is those little features in there. Now, I bring all this up as the backdrop to say congratulations, Gentoo is taking the first steps to ditch Copilot infested GitHub because they don't want the AI nonsense either. So here is a major, large Linux distro which is looking at this going, nah, bro, don't want it. So they are moving over to Codeberg instead of GitHub. The repository mirror is live, only the eBuild repo, with more of the project's Git infrastructure planned in the coming months. This was actually part of their 2025 end-of-year outline where the team made it clear they'd be migrating repositories away from GitHub, providing the rationale mostly because of the continuous attempts to force Copilot usage in our repositories. Gentoo currently considers and plans migration of our repository mirrors and pull request contributions to Codeberg. So developers can now submit pull requests through Codeberg using the aget workflow, which the project says eliminates the need to maintain personal forks of the repository. Gentoo has also published detailed instructions on their wiki for contributors making the switch. This has to do with entirely Copilot, and they do not want the Copilot hoisted upon them. So GitHub sits at the center of the ecosystem with the platform hosting millions of repositories serving the default choice for many developers, but the 2018 acquisition for $7.5 billion smackaroos is a move that remains controversial. I won't have anything to do with GitHub because of that. Sorry, don't want Microsoft accounts. And so effectively, they are a big project, and they're looking at this going, well, how do we do it? And they're doing it in small steps. Let's first clone everything, then let's slowly get the work process over. And hopefully, if not by the end of the year, I don't know, maybe the end of the year, maybe in a couple of years, they will have completely migrated off of it. And then Microsoft can go back, Salty Nutella can go back to the Microslop board and be like, I don't know why we're losing all these people, but Copilot's going great, cry me a river. Codeberg, they're saying, goes the opposite direction. It's not owned by a big tech company. It's owned by a German nonprofit in Brazil. And so it better matches the philosophy that Gentoo has of being mostly a FOSS and an open source project. So congratulations to Gentoo moving away from Microslop infested, Copilot infested GitHub, and moving on to something that is more respectable with your alignment. Now, the rest of you still using GitHub, you might think about putting together some form of exit strategy. Maybe it's Codeberg, maybe it's something you self-host, maybe it's GitLab. There's a number of different things you could do as well. So let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.